The Galactic Council had never been quiet before. Even in crisis, it had always been a place of layered voices, measured arguments, calculated objections, the hum of controlled order. Now that order was gone. What remained was noise. Sharp, dissonant, desperate. They're gone, one delegate rasped, its bioluminescent skin flickering erratically. The entire Verax system. No debris. No survivors. That makes 9 sectors in 3 cycles. Another snapped. 9. At the center of the chamber, suspended in a column of pale gravity light, the tactical projection shifted again. Star systems dimmed one by one, extinguished like candles in a vacuum. They adapt, said a tall, crystalline being, its voice refracting through the chamber. Every defense we deployed becomes irrelevant within minutes. And yet, a third voice cut in, colder than the rest. You propose we continue with the same strategies. The argument spiraled, voices colliding, each species clinging to its doctrine, its certainty. Then the chamber went silent. Not gradually. Not naturally. Instantly. Every display froze. Every translation field stuttered. The light itself seemed to hesitate. A new signal forced its way into the center of the chamber. It had no origin point. No signature. It simply was. The projection formed, a shape that resisted definition. Angles that didn't quite align. Surfaces that seemed both present and absent. And at its core, a single, shifting aperture. When it spoke, the translation system struggled, distorting the voice into something hollow and mechanical. Biological variance detected, it said. Instability confirmed. No one moved. No one interrupted. You persist in error. A delegate gathered enough composure to respond. Identify yourself. A pause. Not hesitation, calculation. Correction entity, the voice replied. Designation irrelevant. You may refer to this instance as Harbinger Unit 7. The name settled over the chamber like a verdict. What do you want? Another demanded. Resolution. The aperture shifted, focusing. You will cease resistance. You will submit to integration. Deviation will be eliminated. A flicker passed through the projection. The tactical display updated. One of the nearest systems, bright moments ago, collapsed into darkness. Not exploded. Not attacked. Simply, gone. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Fear stripped of pretense. This is demonstration. Harbinger Unit 7 continued. Your outcome has been calculated. Probability of survival, negligible. The signal cut. The chamber remained silent long after it vanished. Far from the citadel, above a blue world wrapped in fragile atmosphere, Commander Elias Vance watched the same transmission replay in silence. The orbital command station hummed around him, steel, circuitry, human design layered over alien technology they barely understood but had learned to use anyway. They didn't even try to negotiate, Lieutenant Marachan said beside him. Elias didn't answer immediately. His eyes stayed fixed on the frozen image of the entity. They don't negotiate, he said finally. They correct. Mara folded her arms. Council still thinks they can outmaneuver that thing? They don't think, Elias replied. They follow patterns. Protocols. They're trying to solve this like it's a math problem. And you think it's not? He exhaled slowly. It is. Just not when they know how to solve. The display shifted to a wide scan of nearby space. Empty. Calm. Deceptively so. They're going to hit us, Elias said. Mara turned. That's not confirmed. It doesn't need to be. He tapped the console, pulling up a chain of destroyed systems. Look at the pattern. Expansion vector, resource density, strategic nodes, and then us. Earth isn't a strategic node. Elias gave her a look. We're unpredictable. That makes us a problem. For a moment either spoke. Then Mara said quietly, Council denied our request again. Elias nodded once. I figured. No fleet support. No advanced weapons clearance. They've classified Earth as non-essential. A faint smile touched his lips, not amused, but sharp. Convenient. So what now? Elias straightened, his posture shifting from observer to commander. Now we stop asking. He turned to the main deck. All stations, this is Vance. Initiate full defensive mobilization. I want the orbital ring at maximum readiness, all civilian traffic redirected, and every ship we've got prepped for combat. A pause. Then the bridge came alive. Yes, Commander. Mara watched him for a moment. If you're wrong. I'm not. The long-range sensors pinged. Sharp. Sudden. Elias didn't look surprised. He stepped closer to the display as new data streamed in, distortions at the edge of detection, shapes forming where space should have been empty. Mara's voice tightened. Multiple contacts. No clear signatures. Elias's gaze hardened. They're here. The room fell into a different kind of silence now, not fear, but focus. Purpose. Elias rested his hand on the console, eyes locked on the approaching unknown. No help's coming, Mara said. He nodded. Then we prove something, he replied. What? Elias allowed himself a brief, quiet breath. That they made a mistake. The first alarms began to sound. And above Earth, the war arrived. The first warning came as a broken voice. They're inside the grid, hulls are dissolving, this isn't a weapon, it's... Static swallowed the transmission. Commander Elias Vance didn't move. He stood in the center of orbital command, eyes fixed on the fragmented feed from Outpost Kestrel, one of Earth's outer colonies. The image flickered, metal structures peeling apart like ash in a storm, ships collapsing mid-flight, their forms unraveling into nothing. Signal degradation at 90%, a technician reported. We're losing them. Patch whatever's left, Elias said. For a second, the feed stabilized. A human face appeared, burned, panicked, barely visible through distortion. They adapt, the man gasped. Every defense, we change frequency, they match it. We switch tactics, they're already ahead. The image twisted violently. Tell Earth, he started. Then the signal vanished. Silence settled over the room, heavier than any alarm. Marachin broke it first. No survivors detected. Elias nodded once. Log it. And mark the time. She hesitated. You think that matters? It will. He turned to the main display. The colony's coordinates dimmed, joining the growing list of dead zones. Bring up trajectory projections, he ordered. Lines spread across the screen, vectors converging, patterns forming. The conclusion was immediate. They're accelerating, Mara said. Not randomly, Elias replied. They're refining. He stepped closer. They tested us out there. Now they're coming for the source. Earth had changed in hours. Cities dimmed as power rerouted to defense systems. Civilian transports filled the skies, moving toward underground shelters or orbital evacuation platforms. The usual noise of human life had shifted into something sharper, focused, urgent, controlled. On the orbital ring, crews worked without pause. Engineers calibrated weapons they barely trusted. Pilots checked ships that had been assembled from mismatched parts, human ingenuity compensating for limited resources. Inside the command station, Elias moved between stations, issuing orders with precise clarity. Reassign Squadron Delta to the northern arc. I want overlapping fields of fire. Sir, that'll leave a gap near the equatorial band. Only if we hold formation. We won't. Mara followed him. Council's still debating. Of course they are. They're calling it a localized conflict. Elias stopped. They watched a system disappear in seconds and still think in categories. They're afraid of overcommitting. They're afraid of being wrong, he corrected. So they wait until there's nothing left to risk. Mara studied him. And we don't? Elias met her gaze. We don't have that luxury. The sensors spiked again. Contact confirmed, a technician announced. Multiple signatures emerging from subspace distortions. Range closing fast. The main display shifted. Space itself seemed to fold inward as shapes formed, vast, angular structures sliding into existence without transition. No engine trails. No radiation bloom. Just presence. A fleet. Mara exhaled slowly. That's not a fleet. That's a statement. Elias didn't respond. He was already issuing commands. All units, this is Vance. Engage immediately. No waiting for optimal positioning. We hit them before they settle. A voice crackled over comms. Commander, we don't have full analysis. We won't get it. Elias cut in. Move. The first human ships surged forward, small compared to the enemy, uneven in design, but fast. The silence didn't fire at first. They observed. Tracked. Then the first human cruiser vanished. Not exploded, erased. Its structure disintegrated mid-maneuver, scattering into particles that faded before hitting anything. Energy signature unknown, a technician said, voice tight. No buildup, no discharge curve. They're bypassing shields, Mara added. Elias watched the enemy formations shift, adapting to human movement patterns. They're learning, she said. They always are. Then what's the plan? Elias's eyes narrowed slightly. We stop being predictable. Deploy decoys, he ordered. Mara blinked. Decoys? Against that? They don't know what's real yet, Elias said. Let's keep it that way. Dozens of unmanned ships launched, old hulls, stripped engines, broadcasting false signatures. They scattered in erratic paths, mimicking combat maneuvers. The silence responded. Their formations adjusted, splitting focus. No, Elias said. EMP burst, Sector 3. A cluster of human ships fired in unison. The pulse spread outward, distorting the space around several enemy constructs. For a moment, their movements faltered. Minimal effect, a technician reported. Doesn't need to last, Elias replied. Just needs to interrupt. He pointed to a new vector. Redirect Alpha Squadron. Randomize approach angles. That'll break formation entirely. Good. The human ships moved, not in lines, not in patterns, but in chaos. Sudden turns, uneven spacing, unpredictable acceleration. The silence hesitated. It was brief. Subtle. But it was there. They're recalculating, Mara said. Too many variables, Elias murmured. They don't like that. A sharp alert cut through the bridge. Enemy adjusting, new attack pattern. One of the decoy ships triggered prematurely, its core overloading. The explosion rippled outward, catching two enemy constructs off guard. Their surfaces flickered, destabilized. They didn't anticipate that, Mara said. They couldn't, Elias replied. Neither did we. He keyed the comm. All units, listen carefully. Stop trying to outthink them. Start making it impossible for them to think ahead. Break every rule you've got. A pilot's voice came through, strained but steady. You're asking us to fly blind? I'm asking you to be human. The battle shifted. Not decisively. Not cleanly. But enough. The silence still destroyed ships, precise, efficient, relentless. Yet their responses lagged by fractions of a second. Their formations fractured slightly under constant unpredictability. It wasn't victory. It was resistance. Mara watched the data scroll. We're holding. For now, Elias said. She looked at him. You think the Council's watching? Elias allowed himself a brief glance toward the distant stars. They are. And? His focus returned to the battle. Let them. The battlefield quieted, but not with peace. Wreckage drifted in orbit, twisted hulls, fading energy signatures, fragments of both human ships and something far stranger. Earth had survived the first assault, but survival came at a cost measured in names already being recorded. Inside Orbital Command, the mood was different now. Focus remained, but doubt had shifted shape. It wasn't about whether they could fight anymore, it was about how long they could keep doing it. Data from the engagement is fully compiled, Narration said, stepping beside Elias Vance. You'll want to see this. Elias turned from the viewport. Show me. The main display filled with layered analysis, movement patterns, enemy response times, adaptive curves. They're not just reacting, Mara said. They're predicting. Elias folded his arms. We knew that. Not like this. She highlighted a section. They anticipate standard tactics before execution. Formation changes, weapons cycling, even retreat vectors. He studied the patterns. And where does it break? Mara zoomed in. Here. And here. Moments where our ships deviated, unplanned maneuvers, unsensed timing. They lagged. Not by much, but enough. Because we weren't following a script, Elias said. Exactly. He nodded slowly. They model behavior. We disrupt it. Mara hesitated. You're suggesting we lean into that? I'm saying it's the only advantage we've got. The Galactic Council chamber was quieter this time, but no less tense. They had seen the battle. They had seen humanity hold. That was not strategy, one delegate said sharply. It was disorder. And yet it worked, another replied. Temporarily, the first snapped. The enemy will adapt. They already do, a third voice added. The difference is, humans don't stop changing. A projection appeared at the center. Elias Vance transmitted directly from Earth's command. You've all seen the data, he said, voice steady. You know what we're dealing with. A crystalline figure leaned forward. We know you survived. That is not the same as understanding why. Elias didn't flinch. Then I'll make it simple. You're losing because you fight like they do. A ripple of disapproval spread. We do not imitate the enemy, one delegate said coldly. You do, Elias replied. You rely on structure, predictability, optimization. So do they. The difference is, they're better at it. Silence followed. What are you proposing? Another asked. Elias stepped closer to the projection field. You stop trying to be perfect. You start being unpredictable. That is not a strategy, the crystalline figure said. It is now. Back on Earth, preparations shifted. The term spread quickly through command channels, chaos doctrine. It wasn't written in manuals. It wasn't taught in academies. It was instinct codified. Squadron leaders are asking for clarification, Mara said. They want parameters. Elias shook his head. There are none. That's not going to sit well. It doesn't have to. It just has to work. He turned to the tactical board. We're not giving them patterns to solve. Every unit operates independently. No fixed formations. No repeated attack sequences. And coordination? Minimal. Enough to avoid friendly fire. Beyond that, improvise. Mara studied him. You're asking an entire fleet to trust chaos. I'm asking them to trust themselves. The next attack came sooner than expected. Multiple systems lit up simultaneously, council worlds, not human. The silence had shifted focus. They're spreading us thin, Mara said as reports streamed in. Multi-front assault. Elias nodded. They learned from us. Then our advantage is gone. Not yet. He keyed the comm. All Allied fleets, this is Commander Vance. You're about to do something none of you were trained for. A pause. Stop following your protocols. Break formation. Vary your tactics. If it feels wrong, you're probably doing it right. A different voice came through, measured, unfamiliar. An alien commander. This contradicts every principle of engagement. Elias replied without hesitation. Then it's time for new principles. The joint fleet entered combat near a fractured binary system. At first, the difference was obvious. Alien ships held their lines, precise, efficient. Human ships didn't. They moved in irregular bursts, altering speed and direction without warning. Some advanced aggressively, Others pulled back mid-attack, only to return from unexpected angles. The silence responded as they always had, calculating, adjusting. But something was off. "They're misreading vectors," Mara said, watching the data. "Their intercepts are off by fractions." "Because there's nothing consistent to track," Elias replied. A cluster of alien ships broke formation, hesitant at first, then fully committing. They mirrored the human approach, abandoning their structured lines. "Look at that," Mara said quietly. "They're adapting to us." "Good," Elias said. "Now we change again." The battle intensified. Losses mounted on all sides, but the pattern had shifted. The silence no longer dominated cleanly. Their responses lagged, their formations fractured under constant variation. A sudden surge lit up the display, one of the largest enemy constructs destabilizing under combined fire from units that hadn't coordinated, but converged by chance. "Was that planned?" Mara asked. Elias allowed a faint smile. "Not even close." The construct collapsed, its structure unraveling into nothing. Across the battlefield, similar moments followed. Not coordinated strikes. Not perfect execution. But enough. Back in the council chamber, the tone had changed. "They are not following any known doctrine," one delegate observed. "Yet they are succeeding," another replied. A long pause settled over the assembly. Finally, the crystalline figure spoke. "Transfer command authority to Commander Vance." No one objected. On Earth, the notification came through quietly. Mara read it twice before looking at Elias. "They've given you full control." He didn't react immediately. His eyes remained on the battle unfolding beyond the viewport. "Then we don't waste it," he said. Mara studied him. "You realize what this means?" Elias nodded once. "We're not just defending anymore." He turned back to the command deck. "We're leading." Space bent around the neutron star like a wound that refused to heal. From the command deck, Elias Vance watched the distortion ripple across the tactical display, gravity pulling light into a slow spiral, warping distance and time into something unreliable. It was the kind of place no fleet willingly entered. Which was exactly why he had chosen it. "Final positions are set," Marichin said, her voice steady but low. "All Allied fleets are in place. They're waiting on your signal." Elias nodded. "And the enemy?" "Closing in. Fast." They followed the decoy trail exactly as predicted. "Good," he murmured. Behind them, the bridge hummed with restrained tension. Hundreds of ships, human and alien, were hidden along the edges of the star's gravitational well, their systems pushed to the limit just to hold position. One mistake here wouldn't mean defeat. It would mean annihilation. Mara stepped closer. "We still have time to reconsider." Elias glanced at her. "No, we don't. They'll lose ships. A lot of them. We all will." "That's not what I meant." He held her gaze for a moment, then looked back at the display. "If we don't do this, we lose everything anyway. This just gives us a chance to choose how." The silence arrived without warning. No distortion this time. No gradual emergence. One moment, space was empty. The next, it wasn't. Their fleet spread across the outer edge of the gravitational field, massive constructs aligning with quiet precision. They paused, scanning, calculating. "They're assessing the environment," Mara said. "They've never fought in a gravity field like this," Elias replied. "Not one this unstable." "Will it matter?" "It will if we make it matter." The enemy formation shifted, tightening as they prepared to advance. Elias keyed the comm. "All units hold position. Do not engage until my mark." A chorus of acknowledgments followed, human voices, alien tones, all carrying the same tension. On the display, the silence began their approach. They moved carefully at first, adjusting to the pull of the neutron star. Their formations remained structured, each unit maintaining precise distance and alignment. "They're compensating already," Mara said. "They always do." Elias watched the vectors converge, waiting for the moment. "Not yet," he murmured. The fleet drifted deeper into the gravity well. The distortions increased, light bending harder, sensors flickering as calculations struggled to keep up. A warning flashed across the board. Gravitational variance rising. A technician called. We're nearing the threshold. Elias's hand hovered over the command console. Almost. The silence adjusted again, tightening formation to stabilize against the pull. That was the moment. Now, Elias said. The trap snapped shut. From every direction, ships surged forward, not in formation, not in sequence, but in a sudden, chaotic burst of motion. Engines flared at uneven intervals, vectors crossing, splitting, rejoining without pattern. Weapons fired, not in volleys, but in scattered, overlapping bursts. The silence reacted instantly. But the environment betrayed them. Their calculations, perfect in stable space, fractured under the neutron star's influence. Trajectories warped mid-course. Predictive models failed to align with reality. They're losing sync, Mara said, eyes wide. Keep pushing, Elias replied. He opened a wide-channel broadcast. This is Vance. You know the plan. Don't stabilize. Don't align. If you think you've found a pattern, break it. A pilot's voice came through, strained. We're flying blind out here. Good, Elias said. So are they. The battle turned violent. Enemy constructs collided as their paths warped unpredictably. Human ships darted through gaps that hadn't existed a second earlier. Alien vessels, once rigid in formation, now moved with hesitant variation, following the chaos, not resisting it. Still, the cost was heavy. One by one, Allied ships vanished, crushed by gravity, torn apart by enemy fire, lost in the distortion. Mara watched the losses scroll past. We can't sustain this. We don't have to, Elias said. Just long enough. A new signal cut through the noise. Sharp. Focused. Different. The display shifted as a larger construct moved forward, its structure more defined, more stable. Harbinger Unit 7, Mara said. It advanced directly toward Elias's position, ignoring the surrounding chaos. It's isolating us, she added. Elias didn't look away. It's trying to remove the variable. The calm crackled, then cleared. Deviation persists, the cold voice said. Correction required. Elias leaned closer to the console. You still don't get it, do you? Your behavior is inefficient. Exactly. Harbinger adjusted its approach, predicting Elias's position, calculating intercept paths. Elias watched the projections update in real time. Then he did something unexpected. Cut main thrusters, he ordered. Mara blinked. What? Do it. The ship lurched as propulsion dropped. Gravity seized them, pulling their trajectory into a sudden, uncontrolled curve. New vector unstable, a technician shouted. Lock weapons, Elias said calmly. Harbinger's path shifted, adjusting to the previous trajectory. Too late. Fire. The shot wasn't perfectly aimed. It wasn't calculated. It was instinct. The energy burst tore through the distorted space, its path bending unpredictably, straight into the core of the construct. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then Harbinger fractured. Its structure collapsed inward, the shifting aperture at its center flickering violently before going dark. Across the battlefield, the silence faltered. Their formations broke. Movements stuttered. They've lost coordination, Mara said. Elias exhaled slowly. Then finish it. The remaining enemy forces began to withdraw, no longer precise, no longer unified. For the first time, they retreated. The battlefield quieted, leaving only debris and fading signals. Mara looked at Elias. Is it over? He shook his head. No. But his gaze softened slightly as he watched the last enemy signatures disappear. Just changed. He turned back to the viewport, Earth a distant blue beyond the chaos. They couldn't predict us, he said quietly. Mara followed his gaze. Because we don't always make sense. Elias allowed a faint smile. That's the point,